I kicked up a big fuss this morning when I said, I'd like some bacon, but I want it to be I want Canadian bacon. They said, we don't have Canadian bacon. I was like, we're in fucking Canada.
We just call it bacon here.
I know, but
this is different.
It's that American thin strips of fat that have just been, which is great if you know, as like if it's on a burger and things. But on a breakfast, you want something a bit more meaty.
There you go. So I'm going to ask our guests a couple of questions. We do have microphones off to the side if you're so inclined to come on up and ask a question. How many folks were at our panel yesterday talking all about Dragon Age? Okay, so a few hands. So we can go over some of that stuff again, but we won't do too much because we want to talk about
whatever.
Okay.
Yep.
For any Dragon Age fans out there, can confirm what about future games or not confirm?
I can't confirm anything.
So that's pretty much it. So we did discover something on the panel yesterday, which I want to follow up on. Big Star Trek fan right here.
Mm-hmm. Huge Star Trek fan.
So I was sitting here on this same couch with Mr. LeVar Burton not too long ago, who you had a bit of an encounter with in the green room, your first time meeting.
He touched me. He did touch me, and I thought I was going to faint.
So.
Sorry, this is very rude, eating Canadian bacon while speaking to lots of Canadians. Yeah, so I was a massive Star Trek fan when I was younger. I had a horrible school time, so Star Trek was my escape. When I come home, and I had a book which I bound in silver foil, had the exact number of all my long play VHS Star Trek episodes that I record every night, and that was my thing. That was my big escape thing. So it was a huge part of my life. I do a lot of conventions, but still to this day, if anyone from the next generation is at a convention that I'm at, I just turn back into a 14-year-old boy, and like I get really nervous and start sweating. And LeVar Burton was in the green room yesterday, and he said, "Here, hi, I'm LeVar." I said, "Hello, Gareth, big fan." I thought, oh, that went well. You held it together pretty good there, Gareth. Well done. Yeah, very nice. Big fan, yeah. And then on the way, then he was leaving, and I sort of waved, and he came over and he touched my shoulder. At which point it went, ah. Blown it.
Well, on the topic of touching, I got to ask you about John Barrowman.
If anyone asks what it's like to kiss John Barrowman, they can leave. It's the back.
Well, this is.
It's the banned question. Not enough people ask John Barrowman what it's like to kiss me. This is my issue with that question.
I was not going to ask that because I know full well what it's like to kiss John Barrowman because that's.
He's rubbish, isn't he?
That's the kind of interaction that I had with him the first time that I met him. So I wanted to know about what it was like the first time that you met him. Was he that forward and friendly with you, or was that something that he worked up to?
No, he's forward and friendly with everyone, whether he knows them or not. I've got some great John Barrowman stories. No, what's brilliant about John, especially when it's your first day on set, and Torchwood was my first regular TV role. So I was really, really nervous. But he has this energy about him that makes everyone feel at home, makes everyone laugh. So actually, he was a godsend on my first day of filming. And throughout filming, those long hours, we do sometimes 15 or 16-hour days, and we needed John there to sort of keep everyone's spirits up. He is inexhaustible energy. When it's getting late in the day, he would sing, dance, skateboard around, get his willy out. Lots of stuff to keep our spirits high.
I noticed.
I'm serious.
I noticed that the panel yesterday were talking about your character from
What's signing for Willy? Right. That's about right, actually.
Bringing it back.
Bringing it back. Reining it in, reining it in.
We're talking about your character in Dragon Age and how much heartbreak surrounds Solas in Dragon Age, but also obviously heartbreak with Ianto in the conclusion of Torchwood. So, do you have like an aspiration to play a character who's just very affable and has a good ending and everything's like
play a character that lives? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, actors like playing villains or want to do a really good death scene. But they have got quite boring, I must say, because I'm doing them all the time. I'm dying all the time. We need an actor who's going to die. Let's get Gareth David Lloyd in. He's really good at dying. But I'm doing Casualty at the moment. I've just finished filming. It starts November 3rd. It's a British medical drama, a bit like ER. And I live in that. As far as I know, I'm still alive at the moment. You know, whether they bring me back as a semi-regular, I don't know. But I'm alive, so that's nice. I don't know what I'm talking about. I've just made my first independent creation, Black River Meadow, which is out Halloween on YouTube. If you want details about that, it's all over my social networking sites, and or just come up to the desk and ask about it. It'll be on YouTube on its own channel, Black River Meadow, 31st of October. And I die in that. So the thing that I've written, I die in as well. So
just spoiled it.
Yeah, I know. Not really. That's not the twist.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Me dying is not a twist anymore. People expect it when. Yeah. Yeah. So Casualty, and what else? Robin Hood Rebellion is out November 5th on DVD. I think you're able to get it over here as well, from what I've heard. It's a Robin Hood film I made last year with Brian Blessed. And I live in that. So yeah, lots of living this year.
Well, we will get to the floor in just a second, but my last question for you before we do, I mean, we're all here because we're big, passionate fans. Aside from Star Trek, do you have any big fandoms, things that you're really into? Do you have a favorite sci-fi film?
Yeah, I mean, I love Game of Thrones. There's not many people who don't. What else have I been watching recently? I really enjoyed The Haunting of Hill House. You ever seen that? Yeah, that was fun. A bit of a disappointing ending. You sort of go. No, okay. You might not be disappointed. I was a bit disappointed, but with the end, I thought they were going to save all the really scary stuff, because you had all these reports about people passing out for the last few episodes. All the really sort of scary stuff happens earlier on, I think. Yeah. What else? Star Trek Discovery was amazing, wasn't it? I can't wait for the next series of that. Yeah, I mean, loads of stuff. I mean, I'm obsessed with Lego Avengers computer game at the moment, because that's what my son keeps making me play. Yeah, no, lots of things. I keep myself entertained.
Well, let's go to the floor for some questions. We got our microphone, and someone's stepping up wearing a bright orange vest.
I actually had two questions. The first
No.
Oh. Surprise. But the first question is that Ianto in the first season, he plays, out of the main team, probably plays one of the smaller roles. He has like 1.5 focus episodes, but the real first season really was about Gwen and Jack, because it was like introduction to this new world. But did you ever think that by the end of it, that Ianto would matter so much that people are still crying over his death today?
It's amazing. It's a phenomenon, really. I'm really blown away by it, especially the fact that there's a shrine still in Cardiff Bay that everyone was tweeting and worried about when we had a storm. Is the shrine okay? It's like, it's 10 years since I've been in the show, and people are still worrying about the fucking shrine. I mean, I'm there every other day, sort of maintaining it and laminating things and things like that. But and it's all right. Yeah, it moves me to think that work that I've been involved with has moved people to go to those lengths. And he was a great character. I think he was one of the first characters in a sci-fi or fantasy show to have a same-sex relationship with the leading character, which I think meant a lot to a lot of people. I think that's why a lot of people have sort of latched onto him, and it was a sort of breakthrough for British television, I think. And he was funny. He had a nice dry wit. But yeah, it's really moving that he still to this day has so many fans that are so dedicated. It's the reason I'm here. So thank you.
And my next question was that I know that the show's not going on, but there's still radio dramas that has been released over the last couple of years. And there's one, I forget if that was a year or two ago, that you did, which was basically we finally got to really learn how Jack and Ianto's relationship began. And I just, even though it was a radio drama, how was it to actually kind of know how this started? Because it kind of, we just thrown in the show and like, oh, they're having sex now, okay.
Yeah, you're talking about Broken by Joe Lidster. What a brilliant piece of writing. I mean, I think that was very much for the fans because that was sort of a, not so much a plot hole, but sort of a really grey area where fans couldn't quite connect the dots of how he was like, fiddling with a cyber girl in the basement, and then outcast for it, and then suddenly in a relationship with his boss. And I think what a brilliant episode. For those who haven't listened to it, I highly recommend it. Broken by Joe Lidster from Big Finish. Answers all the questions that anyone asked me at a convention about that time period before it came out. So yeah, a really clever bit right, and it made sense, and it was logical, and it was moving, and it was brings a tear to the eye. But very, very good. I've written two myself. Did you know that?
Yes.
Oh, you did. Okay. Yes, they weren't very good. Yeah, I've just finished another one, and possibly there's going to be another one. But I think what Big Finish has done to keep Torchwood alive is amazing, and I think the quality of the stories, just as good as the TV. A lot of people sort of frown on audio drama because it's not live action, but they've had some really, really good writers. Working on, I'm only joking. And yeah, so I highly recommend them. If you do miss Torchwood, and it might come back on TV, you never know. You never know. John Barrowman said something recently about if anyone can revive Torchwood, it would be Chris Chibnall, who's now Doctor Who showrunner. So.
Never know.
So who knows? Whether he'll revive me, I have no idea. I mean, he should if he knows what's good for him, but yeah, so never say never. But if you are missing Torchwood, in the interim, Big Finish audio dramas are really, really good.
Thank you.
Thanks for the questions. We'll get to that question in a split second, but on the topic of Doctor Who, reaction to Jodie Whittaker stepping in as the new Doctor.
Amazing!
Yeah.
She is amazing. And the writing is amazing. I mean, Chris was a massive part of the Torchwood world, and I was very excited to know that he was going to be the showrunner, and then very excited to know that we were going to have a female Doctor at last. And it's paid off so well. It's so good. I'm very impressed.
Great. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hello.
I've seen you a few times back home in the UK, Cardiff Comic Con, The Hub, Miracle Day conventions.
All right, don't show off.
Sorry. I think actually my first convention about 10 years ago at The Hub. My question is about the fandoms here and back in the UK. Do you find a difference particularly in the fandoms or the conventions?
They're leveling out now, but when I started doing conventions like 10 years ago, there was quite a distinct difference. The American fans have always been much more, what's the word? Invested. In the cosplay, in the sort of the party atmosphere, and the British fans were always a lot more reserved at the conventions because it was quite a new thing. I think they've been happening. I should say North American, not American. They've been happening for longer over here, so it's more of a thing. Where back in the UK 10 years ago, it was still a very, very new thing, and the British took a while before they knew that they could, invest as much as much as they could. There's more costumes now, and they feel very much more vibrant and colourful and more like they are this side of the pond now. So it's leveling out. But 10 years ago, I would have said the British were much more reserved, much quieter, and much shy, and sort of feeling their feet with it.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. I've been to Cardiff. I went to the shrine, and there were some extremely confused international students looking at this wall. So my question is, when you got the part for Torchwood, when you were reading about Torchwood, what was your reaction to, let's do this science fiction series in a city with 300,000 people, probably roughly the same size as Halifax? What did you think about that? Because normally these shows are in these great big cities.
I was so excited, and I think the reason Torchwood, they stopped making it was because it lost its most valuable character. Cardiff, Wales, that's what gave it its quirk. That's what made it unique. As soon as they sort of tried to bridge the pond, and a lot of season 4 was set in America, and it became very much like a lot of other American glossy shows. It lost its charm. I think Cardiff was one of the main draws, and if they ever do bring it back, they should definitely sort of firmly root it back there. And I was very excited when I found out. I mean, I read an article in the newspaper about the fact that Russell was going to do this show about alien hunters in Cardiff, and I thought, I would love that job. I'd love to be in that show. I was living in London at the time, and if I could get a job like that, and of course, as an actor, you sort of go, I'm never going to get it because I've read about it now, and I really want it, so I'll never get it. So it was really a dream come true when I got it. I thought it was a brilliant concept, and I was, very excited.
Thank you.
Great question.
Hello. Sorry.
Hello.
Hi.
I lost my voice, so my voice sounds like this.
It's amazing.
Thank you. So, movie and TV sets are kind of notorious for pranks. I was wondering if there was any pulled on you, or if you pulled any on anybody else.
There was, of course. Like I said, we had long days, so sometimes to keep our spirits up, pulling pranks on each other was all we could do. John was the main culprit, I should imagine. I've told this story a lot, but my favorite prank that he ever pulled was during the shooting of Children of Earth, when Gwen walks down the corridor with all the bodies after Ianto's snuffed it. And he walks into a gym hall where they've put all the bodies from Thames House, everyone's been gassed, and they're all covered in plastic. And this is big crane shot that it took ages to set up because there was so many extras, and it was big wide shot. Everything had to be just so. And Eve had to walk down to the middle of all these bodies, kneel down, pull the sheet back, and then she sees Captain Jack, and she has a little smile because she knows he's coming back. And then they pull another sheet back, and Ianto's there, and she wells up because he's not coming back. So after sort of taking 2 or 3 hours to set up this huge shot, Eve takes a walk through the bodies, kneels down, pulls back the plastic sheet. John's there wearing a massive handlebar moustache, pulling this expression. And for what was quite a sad day, because I think that was the last shot I was ever involved with. So everyone was quite emotional. It was a sad day for me to be leaving the show. Trust John to raise everyone's spirits, even in that sort of dark moment.
Hey, thank you very much.
No problem. I hope you find your voice.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. So
I wanted to ask, like, probably all the cosplayers here know the struggle. Like, there's always one person in the con that does something, like, you know, like takes a picture that you don't want, or like, you know, tries to get your attention in a way you don't want, or like, you know, you're like, oh, can we take a picture of this, and like grabs you. And like, have you ever had a fan that stepped that line, or like, have you like, or like, what was the funniest fan you had? If you don't want to answer that.
Do you know what? The fans of Torchwood, or certainly the Yanto fans, have always been really, really respectful and lovely. I've never had an experience where I felt uncomfortable or had my space invaded. You hear of other shows, and I know other actors that you meet at conventions, and there's horror stories about fans jumping across the table or grabbing their ass in a photo opportunity. But I've never, ever had that. I don't know why. There's nothing wrong with my ass. But they've always been very, very respectful. It's been, yeah, it's interesting. It's a good question, and interesting that you're also lovely, so thank you. Watch now, I'll go back to my table this afternoon, but 5 people will jump over the table and twist my nipples.
What was the funniest fan you had then? Like, what you're like, oh, that's the fan I like the most. Like,
the fan I like the most, I can't choose between you. I like you all the same. Except you, I like you. The funniest gift I've ever had from a fan is a My Little Pony dressed as Yanto, which was just fucking weird, quite frankly. But I've still got it. It's on my it was that weird that it's in a place. It's on my shelf above my desk, my writing desk. And if ever I'm get in a mood, like writing, or I just look at that and think, crazy.
thank you.
No problem.
Thanks for the great question. Got another one coming up. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm super nervous, anyways.
Don't be nervous.
First, I want to just ask, how are you today?
I'm very good, thank you very much.
Okay. So the question I have is for Solas, as Dragon.
He's not here.
Well, I can make you blush then.
Go on then.
Okay.
What's your Solas question?
Well, it's not really a question, it's a statement. I would just want to see how you would react to it. Okay, this is not going on.
You're dragging this out now, you know that, don't you?
Yes. Solas, I'm just curious. When you said you were going to do it in the fade, I didn't think you were actually going to do it in the fade.
Well, you should have listened to my inflections. Is there a question, or did you just want to see?
I just want to see how you respond.
Oh, right, okay. You have it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Well, hello again.
Hello again. I am wondering, you mentioned getting the role on Torchwood was sort of like a dream come true. It's the sort of thing that you would really have loved to do, and got to do, obviously. I'm wondering, are there certain roles or specific things that you absolutely would love to? Like, what roles are you attracted to? If you could just have one, would it be like the angsty anti-hero, or would it be, you know, the magical elf prick, for example?
That's so great. The magical elf prick. That is a great term. I'm going to use that.
I love Solas, really.
Yeah, magical elf prick. I'm a storyteller. I like characters that are rich, that are human, that are real. All actors like to play villains because they get to vent demons that they can't usually in polite society. But if a character jumps off the page and is rich and is human and is flawed, then I'm excited. I don't like to be too pigeonhole myself too much. I'll have a go at anything.
Is there a genre you would be excited to work in? Obviously,
I do love sci-fi, fantasy, and horror.
Yeah.
Because that's what I was brought up on. Star Trek, and I got introduced to films from my brother. He used to babysit me when I was 5 or 6 and feed me mugs of cider and make me watch Nightmare on Elm Street. in order to terrify me and give me nightmares, but it had to sort of the reverse effect. I actually became obsessed with it, and like I used to run around the schoolyard with my coat like strapped around my neck, pretending to be a vampire and trying to bite all the girls. I went to a special school after that. Yeah, so horror, sci-fi, fantasy is what I was brought up, and so that's what I'm really attracted to, and I love that sort of escapism. I love how people get involved in fantastic worlds, yet you know, live in them at the same time. I think when characters are human, I mentioned this at the Dragon Age panel yesterday, when characters are flawed and human, especially in a sci-fi or fantasy environment, it makes the sci-fi and fantasy elements more real, because the characters, you recognize the characters.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question. You know, we haven't touched on singing at all. Would
No.
you be interested in musical theater? I mean, obviously you have your band.
I've got, you know, I don't like musical theatre. No, it's not that I don't like musical theatre. I like musical theatre, and again, when I was in youth theatres, when I was younger, I did a lot of musical theatre, but it just doesn't get my juices going as much as straight theatre, or comedy. I mean, I love things like musical theatre. I love things like the Threepenny Opera, Brecht, Kurt Weill, Songspiel stuff, where you vocalize a song in character rather than sing it beautifully.
Right.
So I describe myself more as a vocalist who likes putting a story across rather than someone who's into musical theatre. Which, you know, the band, I was in a band called Blue Gillespie, which is like a heavy rock band, and I definitely describe myself in that as more of a vocalist than a singer. I mean, I do sing, but I wouldn't say, that's another thing, is it's not, there are so many people out there who are much better singers than me, so maybe that's it, maybe I'm aware of that, so I've chosen not to sort of go down that path. But yeah, I'm a vocalist rather than a singer. And the kids love, I'll watch a show, I'll watch a musical theatre show, I'll take the kids to see a musical theatre show, but if I go and see a play and it's a really, really good play, I'm really jealous that I'm not on stage. I don't get that as much with musical theatre stuff.
Got it. Go back to the floor, we got time for a few more. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
I've never even asked a question before. You're the first person I've ever came up to actually ask a question.
Oh, thank you. I'm
I'm
really,
like shaking
I'm
right
really
now.
privileged. You are now my favorite fan.
Okay. Well, we all hate to think about, you know, Yanto. I'm gonna cry. Dying. But do you remember when they went to his sister's house and said about the father being a tailor, da 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 da, and all this other stuff? And she's like, no. And so we have all these secrets that we don't know about Yanto, and they left us hanging. Do you even know who Yanto really was, or what do you think who he really was?
There is a very good Big Finish audio drama out called Blind Summit, which is part of the Torchwood 1 box set, which is my attempt at a Yanto origin story, and it's how he first joined Torchwood 1. And there is a lot in there about his past, why he was in London, what makes him take his very sort of different, meek character. And so yeah, I do have lots of ideas about Yanto, about, you know, what his flat was like, about who he was before, where he came from. But a lot of it is being answered in the audio dramas. So again, I'd highly recommend those to anyone who's feeling there's an empty space in their lives, an empty Torchwood or Yanto space in their lives. There's loads of stuff, loads of background, and loads of yeah. And I really, again, characters that sort of change and are changed by things that happen to them. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to share this with you, but the script that I've just written, Yanto is shown into the bowels of Canary Wharf in Torchwood 1 by a colleague who's been up to something, and he says, "Oh, I don't know about this. All this sneaking around in the basement, it's just not me." and at that time it was very true. But it was things that happen to people that sort of make them who they are, and drive them to do things. So yeah, check it out. Check out Big Finish.
I will. Thank you. You're
Great
awesome.
question.
No problem.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
So first off, I was introduced to you through Solus. I'm a big Dragon Age fan. But because of that, I ended up watching the Torchwood series and getting involved in it, which is super awesome.
Awesome.
Just had to say. But my actual question is, what is your favorite part about these conventions? Like you said earlier that you met LeVar Burton and you were like, oh my God, he touched you, because that's how we feel when we meet you. So, well, yeah, what is your favorite part?
A lot of people ask what I prefer out of theatre and whether I prefer theatre or TV. And this does relate to your question, I promise. What's great about doing conventions is you get a physical, first-hand impression of the effect that your work has had on other people. Yeah. So working in sci-fi and fantasy and in genres that sort of lend themselves to the convention communities, you get that, which is great. You don't get that with a lot of other TV and film. At the end of a theatre show, you get that gratification from the audience, that immediacy, that immediate response, which gives you adrenaline. You don't get that with TV and film. And what conventions do is gives us that. It's like, right, well, my work has had this effect on this fan. My work had this effect on this fan. And when it's positive and when it's had a really good effect on people, it's really moving. And I think that's my favorite thing about coming to conventions, is having that first-hand impression of the positive effect work I've been involved with has had.
Oh, thank you.
No problem.
Bye.
This might be our last question. Go for it.
Don't be a spoil sport.
Hi there.
Hello.
I love how you went from seeing that Torchwood was basically in production and you ended up kind of going, I want to be part of that, and there you were. I'm just wondering what the actual audition process was like, and especially as this was an expansion to the whole Doctor Who universe. Is it different with the way that BBC Wales did the whole audition thing compared to other projects you've worked on?
It's changing all the time. Now it's very much more self-tape orientated, so you're more than likely to be asked to do a tape at home and send that off before you'll be considered for recall auditions in which you'll get to meet the producer or the director in a room. But it was back then. It was still very much a classic audition process. You'd go in, you'd meet the casting director, they put you on tape, then that tape would be sent to the director. If he liked you or she liked you, they'd bring you back in to do a recall, and then there probably would be another recall for the producers. With Torchwood, I was really lucky because I fucking hate auditions. I really do. I never perform in an audition like I would if I already had a part, because I suffer quite severely from nerves and anxiety. So I was lucky with Torchwood in the sense that it was just the one audition, because Ianto was quite a small part. They only had 2 lines written for him in that first script, and that's all had been written at that time. So I got asked to come in. Ianto was called Idris Hopper at that time as well. He wasn't called Ianto. They asked me to come in and read another speech. There was a speech from one of the police constables in the first episode, talking about the murders that had been happening, and it was about a paragraph. So they asked me to do that just to see if I could put a speech across, and then got me to do the 2 Ianto lines. And that was, I thought, well, that went okay. I tried really hard because I really, really wanted it. And I was lucky in the sense that Richard Stokes, the producer, was already there. And I think this has something to do with Russell. I think Russell said that I could skip the first round or 2 of auditions because he knew me from another project I worked on called Mine or Mine. in which I played a character called Yanto Jones, whose storyline got cut. Because of scheduling issues, not because I was rubbish. That's what they told me anyway. And so I think I was really lucky with Torchwood that I missed those first couple of audition, that process. And if I had gone straight in and I hadn't worked with Russ before, it's very, very likely I wouldn't have got the part. The nerves would have got the better of me. But anyway, a week went past, 2 weeks went past, and in the third week I thought, there's no way I've got this. And I was just about to jump on a train to go to a theatre audition, and then I got a call from my agent saying, you got Torchwood. At which point I stepped back off the train and walked into a pub to celebrate. Yeah, so I was lucky with that particular audition, but the audition processes change all the time. I hear of people doing a self-tape and sending that off, and it being so exactly what they're looking for that they've just cast them based on a self-tape. It's rare, but it happens.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. We did get the sign that says time up. Anything you want to say to these fans who came out to see you?
Thank you so much. I've had a lovely time.
Gareth David Lloyd, everyone.
Thank you.
Halcon!